Welcome. This is Sylvia Sellz Homes Q&A Community Show. How is everybody doing? Hope everybody's doing well. We are back for our fourth episode to share with you, and you can ask us anything about real estate. Y'all, my last show, I did the fourth show, and I forgot to hit the go live button. Oh my goodness, I had a guest on here too. But you know what? I'm only human. We're all human beings. And my guest was willing to come back on and talk about mortgages. So we're going to be talking about mortgages today. But if there's anything that you want to ask me about real estate, feel free to pop it in the comment area. And I'll do my best to answer the question. I've been doing real estate for now almost 18 years. And so I have a lot of experience. So ask me anything about real estate. And in about probably 15 minutes or so or sooner, we're going to have a guest on. Her name is Leslie Curry. She works for Citizen Bank. She's a loan officer, has been doing it for 23 years. So we're going to be talking about mortgages and how they work. So right now, feel free to ask me anything about real estate. How have you been enjoying all this snow? If you are in the New York State area, we've had a lot of snow this year. A lot. It's been really, 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 really cold. But we're surviving, right? We are surviving this winter. And it actually, it's been winter, cold winter everywhere. But ask me anything about real estate. Like I said, put it in the chat or in the comment area. Any question you have about real estate, you've always had a question about something with real estate. I like to say on this show that even though you can ask Google or Siri anything, I'm a live person. You can ask me that question or whatever question you have about real estate, and I can give you an answer. And even if I can't give you an answer now, I will get the answer to you, because some people have left their comment or their question after the show, because you can still go in and ask a question. I'll get a notification, and then I can still answer your question. So ask me anything about real estate. If you want to know how you go about buying a house, how you go about selling your house, how you go about getting qualified to buy a house, which that's going to be what we're talking about today, how to get qualified to buy a house and how the whole mortgage process works. So again, we have a guest coming on today. She's a loan officer, specializes in mortgages, and she has a wealth of information to tell you all about how mortgages work. So ask me anything about real estate. I'm here to answer your questions. Let's see, we had let's see here what's going on where. Make sure she's remembering. Okay, I gotta hopefully get her on here. Just hold on a minute. Let's see. Ask me anything about real estate. So y'all just be patient with me. I got to actually do something on my phone here. It's not on my phone. It's actually on my computer. I have to resend my guests the link. I'm not sure you can still see me while my computer is doing stuff. Ask me anything about real estate. This is Sylvia Sellz Home Q&A community show. If you're a community person, something you're doing in the community, or even if you have a small business, we also want to highlight small businesses. Ask me anything about real estate. In the meantime, we're going to be bringing on our guest, Leslie Curry, who is a loan officer. She's been working in the mortgage profession for, I think, 23 years. And we're going to get her on here, but ask us anything about real estate. We try to have our show every other Thursday at 12, but my schedule actually has me changing it for this week to Wednesday at 12:15. But hold on a minute. Let me just get that information over to my guest. Y'all be patient with me. Ask me anything about real estate. I'm here to help and to answer your questions about real estate. So I just have to go and let's see here. Okay. But I wonder if y'all can still see me when I have to go and send the link to my guest. I think she kind of misplaced it. So be patient with me. But I wonder if you guys can see me. Let's see here. Ask me anything about real estate. I don't know what is happening here as I am. Oh, there she is. I just sent you the link, but maybe she located it. So again, this is Sylvia Sellz Homes Q&A community show. Ask me anything about real estate. We have a guest on today. She specializes in mortgages. Her name is Leslie Curry, and she is going to be sharing with us all about mortgages and how they work and the process. And if you have any questions, you can put them in the comments and we can do our best to answer them. But we're going to be bringing Leslie on. Leslie Curry. Let's see here. Make sure I'm doing this right. There you are. Welcome, Leslie. We are live.
How are you?
Hi, we are live. I dare remember to record live button this time. But thank you for so graciously coming back on. And we are here to answer any questions about mortgages. And you did a great thing, a great job. Our last time was like a dry run, I guess you could say, because of me forgetting to hit the go live. I love your hair. It is beautiful. Your hair is beautiful, girl. You wearing it. It looks good on you. You got to hit your you're hitting your unmute button. I'm not muted. So I just want to make sure, because y'all know technology is great, but sometimes we just it don't like us and we don't like it. But welcome, Leslie. How you doing? Can I hear you? Are you talking? Okay. I'm not sure if her audio is on. Can you hear us? Can I hear you? Uh-oh. We lost her. Ask me anything about real estate. We have a little technical difficulties, as you can see, but we are here to help you get more information on mortgages and what it means to get a mortgage and work through that process when you're buying a home. It's for the buyer when you get a mortgage and you get approved for a certain amount of money to buy your house. So there are programs out there to help all kind of buyers depending on your situation. Our guest today is Leslie Curry. She is a mortgage loan officer. She's been doing mortgages for 23 years, and she's an expert on her craft and in her field, and she's going to be sharing with us how um, mortgages work. And I lost her feed, so I'm not sure what's going on. And hopefully we can get her back. Again, technology is just great, but sometimes it's not. Ask me anything about real estate. This is the Sylvia Sellz Home Q&A community show. We want to highlight people in the community. We want to highlight small business owners, and we also want to share information through the process of buying a home or selling a home. And we want to use some of the experts in the field of the different aspects or parts of buying or selling a house. So Leslie is on today as a mortgage loan officer, and she is going to share with you how mortgages work. We just got to get her back. We lost the feed. Don't know where she went, but hopefully she'll get back. She did freeze up right before she left. So I hope to get her back on mortgages. But ask me anything about real estate. This is the Sylvia Sellz Home Q&A community show. And if you have questions about real estate, ask me anything about real estate. So I'm going to go to my phone and see what's going on. Okay, Leslie is back. I know I'm live. Let's see here. So we got somebody was watching the live. Let's see here. All right, I'm going to bring her back in. Okay, Leslie, are you there? Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yes. Welcome.
Thank you. I'm sorry. My computer seems to always have a problem getting on with this software. So I have to use my phone. And then when my phone rings, it knocks me off. So I apologize for that.
Okay. Well, technology happens. I know things happen with technology, and it doesn't always go smooth. I was at a class last week in Albany, and they were two technology experts, and they said, you know what, you can expect that technology is going to act up when you're doing something with it. So it's something that is expected always when you're in it. I mean, I'm sure there's time it does go smooth, but there are most times you're going to run into something with it, some glitch or whatever. But so hopefully you'll stay connected, and we can get this show on the road, and you'll be able to talk about mortgages. I know you have another meeting at 1:00, so we're going to try to make sure that we get as much information as we can about mortgages. So while you're doing whatever you're doing, I will introduce Leslie. Leslie Curry is a loan officer with Citizens Bank right now. I see you coming on. You just popped in again.
Yeah, so I'm going to pop off my phone and get on this other computer so that if my phone rings, we won't get disconnected. So I'm going to leave out of here.
You can actually probably leave it there, honestly, because if something happens with your computer, then we would have you.
Okay, so I can't hear you, but I can see you.
Okay, so I'm introducing you. So
let's see audio.
Let's see here. Y'all bear with us. Let me tell y'all something. I'm gonna get this show perfected, and that doesn't really mean perfect because technology. We have technology that messes up. We human beings too, but I'm determined. That's the word I want. I'm determined to get this show going and going well. And so, thank you for your grace. Thank you for your grace.
Got it.
As we continue to bring this show to you on a bi-weekly basis, Sylvia Sellz Homes Q&A community show, and we bring on people in the community. We brought on a couple guests from the community that can give you information about the community. We bring on experts in the field of the area of real estate. As far as when I work with the transaction. There's other players in the transaction, like Leslie, who's a loan officer. We have attorneys, we have inspectors, we have appraisers. We have those type of people that are part of my transaction when someone's buying or selling a house. So I want to also bring those people on and let them share their part of the process and their expertise in what they do when you are buying or selling a house. And we also want to bring on other small business owners in our area, just to highlight you. So welcome Leslie Curry. She is, again, a loan officer with Citizen Bank. She's been a loan officer for, I think, 23 or more years. She's also a mom, a wife, and I've known Leslie for a number of years. Worked with her at least on one transaction, and so I thought it'd be great to bring her on. She's an expert. She knows mortgages like she knows the back of her hand. She's that good at explaining the whole mortgage process. And so I do have the questions that you had sent me before. Actually, Leslie, I didn't find them until after our show that I forgot to push go live. But here we are, and we're going to do this.
Okay.
And we are live, and we thank everybody for watching. We ask that you do come back and watch us again. We do try to do this every other Thursday at 12 o'clock, but sometimes based on schedules, I have to move it. Like today, it's Wednesday at 12:15. So welcome, Leslie, and thank you for joining us. I love your hair. It's beautiful.
Oh, thank you.
Looks great. Yeah, your hair looks beautiful. I love it.
I can't look crazy if I'm coming on live stream.
You are live. You are live, girl. And I just look forward to us, having this show today, talking about loans. So my first question, and then I know you definitely have all your stuff together where you can just share, but I'm going to go through the questions that I do have.
Okay.
So what do loan officers do?
Okay. So loan officers we're like a facilitator. We're like a advocate. So our job is to, one, go out and find people who might need a mortgage. Once you find them, then we need to get them approved for the mortgage.
Mm-hmm.
So the loan officer position, some of it is sales and marketing,
Mm-hmm.
and some of it is more accounting and underwriting guidelines. So once we have a potential borrower, we have to analyze their financial situation. So we're going to need information on them, from their income, their credit, work history, assets, how they save their money, how they spend their money. Those are all the different types of things that the bank will look at when they're evaluating someone for a loan. So our job is to kind of gather all that information, analyze it, evaluate it, see if that person would be considered, a good risk for the bank. And then work to get them pre-approved, step one, and then move forward for a final approval so that they can actually purchase.
So your first part is like you're actually doing a review or even an interview of the potential client to see exactly, okay, where do you stand
right
as far as being able to get a loan?
And what's the situation? So getting a mortgage, people will need a mortgage for a variety of different reasons. The most obvious reason is to purchase a home. But there's other reasons why a person would need to secure financing for real estate. If they already own the home and they want to pull out equity, same type of situation, that's a mortgage. So they would have to be evaluated the same way. If someone is married and they get a divorce and one person is going to keep the house and the other person needs to be bought out, that's a mortgage. You utilize a mortgage to do that transaction. In the case of, if there's a death and a house is in an estate and the house may be willed to a couple individuals and maybe one individual wants to retain the house and the other heirs just want their portion of the property, in the form of cash. So the way to do that, if you don't have the cash money to just give them to buy them out, you can use a mortgage to do that. So there's different reasons why a person would need more financing on real estate. But the most commonly one is either the purchase or refinance. So refinance is when you already own the property, you have equity built up in the property, and you want to turn that equity into cash.
Okay. That's new information to me on the needing a mortgage for when people get divorced and
Mm-hmm.
they want to buy the person out. I just thought that the way I thought it worked is they basically would sell the house and then they would give them their portion
Whatever
of
their portion is.
proceeds. Yeah. But
So
you're saying,
it doesn't always have to be a sale, because if one of the, if one of them wants to retain the house, but the other person has, a vested interest in the property where they're owed, whatever the divorce decree says. If the person is departing is supposed to get 20% of the equity, 30%, it could be a 50-50 split. Whatever the judge says it is in the divorce decree, that's what the bank is going to follow.
okay,
And we will put a mortgage on it, pull the equity out. The new person would have a new mortgage, new payment, new terms. And then the portion that belongs to the other owner gets paid out when they close on the new loan.
oh wow, see, I never knew that.
So selling is one way. And since some people don't want to keep the house, bad memories, whatever, they just want
Right,
to
right,
start fresh. But
right.
you have some instances where they want to keep it.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
I that's something new for me that I didn't realize that's how it worked. And then in the case of when there's a death of
Mm-hmm.
the person who owned the house, could you explain that again? How that works with a
Yeah.
mortgage?
And it's sadly with COVID and a lot of people passing away, their own property. So I get more calls now of family members who may have had someone pass away, and they're taking over the house or whatever. um, Whether there's a loan on the house or not,
Mm-hmm.
the person who's willed the house, or if the estate is going to sell the house like to a family member,
Mm-hmm.
then that person still have to qualify for a mortgage. They still must be income and credit eligible for whatever dollar amount they need to buy the house for. Sometimes it's just for, the estate may say, okay, well, my nephew's going to buy it and I'm only going to sell it to him for what's owed on it, so they'll get a really good deal. But it could be a situation where, it could be a couple other heirs and they have a vested interest in it. And so we need to take the mortgage out to cover what's owed plus their portion that they would receive.
Okay.
So let's say, it's three of them and they're each entitled to $30,000.
Okay.
Okay, so that's 90. And say there's a $30,000 loan on it already. So
Mm-hmm.
then we need to get a mortgage for 120 to pay off the loan, pay off the other two, pay off the other two individuals.
Mm-hmm.
And again, that's something where they would be paid out at closing. The bank will require to see, a copy of the will and, all the administrative state information that goes along with a situation like that, because anything that a court dictates in terms of property, the bank has to follow. Like, we can't do something different than what the divorce decree says or the estate paperwork says. We have to follow that legal judgment or ruling.
Okay. Wow. So I only thought of mortgages, like you said, for a purchase and also for a refinance. That's the only, after being in the business for this many years, 18 years or almost 18 years, I never knew about the divorce and death part of, taking out a mortgage to handle those two type of situations. So
Mm-hmm.
thank you for sharing. And I think that answered my um, next question was what in what situation would a person need a mortgage, or do people need a mortgage? So that answered that question. What are the steps in obtaining a pre-approval? Because pre-approval is definitely the first part. I believe. I mean, you did share that you have to interview or review the
Mm-hmm.
buyer. But what are and I guess that would be the first step, but what are the other steps in obtaining a pre-approval, or even they call them a
Okay.
pre-qualification?
Mm-hmm.
Um, and even explain the difference between a pre-approval and a pre-qual, because I believe there is a difference in those two.
It is a difference, and some people use that term interchangeably, and it is sort of really different, two different things. So a pre-qualification is just kind of the first step. It can just be based on a verbal conversation, on learning what the person's situation is. Different banks classify what a pre-qual is. They have their own system of what they consider a pre-qual opposed to a pre-approval. I remember years ago in real estate, like realtors used to pre-qualify someone. Like they would,
Oh, wow.
they would pull credit, they would do calculations, and that would just give them an idea. One, if you're credit eligible, which is the first thing, and two, how much will your income allow you to purchase? And that's basically a pre-qual. You're kind of pre-qualified. You're kind of meeting the basic steps and basic levels to be able to obtain a mortgage. One, are you credit eligible? Yes. Two, do you have the income to be able to purchase? How much disposable income do you have to be able to handle a mortgage? And then you do calculations to kind of come up with an amount. Okay, that's step one. So you can consider yourself to be pre-qualified. Now, the next stage would be pre-approved, where a loan officer is actually going to evaluate all that information. So they're going to want to see, documentation around your situation. So if you are employed, if you receive a regular paycheck, they're going to want to see your pay stubs. They're going to look at what deductions come out of your pay stub. They're going to want to know what your work history is. So to obtain a mortgage, the bank usually wants to see that you've been working, in most cases, for at least 2 years. It doesn't have to be 2 years on the same job, but they want to see that you can maintain a job for 2 years straight. Now, there are some exceptions to that. Like, say, if someone, graduated from college and, they got a job, right out of their, graduating, they may not have a 2-year work history, but they've been in school for 4 years. So, it's kind of got to make sense. What they don't want to see is someone who, I've been working on this job for 6 months, and then I was out for another 6 months, and then I was working here, there, and everywhere. They want to see consistency, because that's a big thing. With qualifying someone for a mortgage, is banks like to see consistency, and they like to see someone that's stable. And when I say stable, that can mean stable with their credit, stable with their income, stable with their savings, stable with their employment. They don't like to see a lot of variations, highs and lows and whatnot. So we're going to take a look at their income. We're going to check out their work history. We are going to evaluate their bank statements, because you got to have the money, right? So if you don't have the money in the bank, at the time you're trying to get pre-approved, some banks won't even pre-approve you. Like, you could have a job, you could, have good credit, but if you're not showing any money in the bank, how are you going to buy the house? So if you don't have the money in the bank, you need to tell your loan officer how you plan on obtaining that money, and if that money is going to be an acceptable form for the bank, because all money is not acceptable for a mortgage. Cash being like the main thing, like no cash. Cash and mortgages are like oil and water. The bank they don't mix. You just can't come to closing with $10,000 in cash and say, "Hey, I'm ready to close." The money needs to be from an acceptable form. And, there's lots of different acceptable forms, tax returns, your savings, money from your job, a grant, a gift from a relative. But it just can't be, money that you were saving at home or that type of thing.
Wow.
So bank statements are crucial. And I tell people that if you don't have the money in your account, because a lot of people, they don't trust banks. Okay. A lot of different cultures don't trust banks.
Right.
So they keep money at home in a safe or a safe deposit box. So you just can't take that money out and put it in the bank and say, "Hey, I'm ready." Any money like that has to be what we call seasoned. And that means it has to be on deposit in a bank account for at least 60 days before you get your pre-approval. So you can't do it as soon as you find a house, because they're going to they're always going to go back and look at your activity for the last 2 months. So if you put it in, what is this, February? If you put it in January 16th, and I'm qualifying you now, and I look at your bank statements and I say, "Hey, where this, $10,000 in cash come from? You say, oh, it came from home. Then I'll say, okay, you need to wait another 30 days before you enter into a transaction. Because when they go back and look over 60 days, if they've got that large deposit and they ask you where it's from and you can't, it's from cash, it's like invisible to the bank.
You know, when I work with buyers, there are some buyers who do get very, they get like frustrated. They're like, oh, they want everything. And I said, well, that's a part of their process.
It
And so
is.
I guess, um, do you, I'm thinking that you do walk them through the process, or do they just forget that, okay, I mean, do you walk them through so that they know what to expect? Because they're like, I gave them that before. I've
Mm-hmm.
had those type of
I
comments.
hear that. Yeah, I hear that a lot. So yeah, and I don't know. I can't speak to what all loan officers do because we are not created equal and we don't work the same way. But I send my clients a plethora of information. As soon as they make the first call to me, as soon as I have their email address, I'm sending them information on the mortgage process, credit, what to expect. So people have to read, and some people don't read. Some people want you to tell them, and then you have to repeat it and repeat it, and sometimes they want to hear it from more than one person. So that's why it's important to work with somebody that you have a relationship with. So,
Mhm.
if we're working with a client together and I tell them don't deposit cash and you tell them don't deposit cash, then maybe they say, oh, well, maybe I won't deposit cash. Sometimes people have to hear it, a couple different times.
Right.
And because the process is so long,
It is.
I may have pre-approved someone, today, and they may not find a house for 4 or 5 months later. Honestly, they could forget, it's so much information.
Yeah, you're right.
Or they may think, oh, well, that doesn't really matter in their mind. They're thinking it doesn't really matter because, people think in terms of like common sense, right? So common sense, yeah, I got the money in my account. What's the problem? Well, the problem is where you got it from.
Right, right. You have to
you
trail
know,
that money, right? You have to keep a trail of all monies
you
that is
do.
going to be involved in that transaction with the
Hmm.
buyer. You have to be able to trail it back
You
to.
do, and when you and it has to be again from an acceptable source.
Mhm.
So, we get into that a lot. If people don't have the money on deposit, when they're finalizing their mortgage application, so I will issue a pre-approval to someone who does not have the money on deposit. But we've come up with a plan on where the money is coming from, and I know where it's coming from. They can say, "Oh, well, I'm getting a grant for $3,000." Okay, we got that documentation.
Right.
My parents are giving me six, and I'm going to save another two by the time we close. I can work with that
Yes.
because I know where it's coming from and I know it's from an acceptable source. But you just can't pop up and put money in the bank and say I'm ready. If it's cash, you can't do it. If it was a
Excellent.
check, then that's a different situation. Um, and people will throughout this mortgage process because it is a lot of documentation. Each document has an expiration, so you may have to submit stuff more. You will 9 times out of 10 have to submit something more than once, and you may think it's the same thing. Well, I gave you my pay stub in December. Okay, but we're in January now. It's a new month, so
Right.
I need
Right.
an updated pay stub. Same thing with bank statements. So every document has an expiration. So that's why you'll hear people say, "Oh, I already gave them that."
Yeah.
The only thing that people won't have to resend in is like W-2s because they only come out once a year. So once I
Okay.
have that one, I'm good. But the pay stub and the bank statements constantly changing, right? Your
Okay.
hours can change, your wages can change, a lot of things can change before you close. So that's why the bank is going to want that. And also they're going to want to make sure that you're continually working because some people, they may think, oh, I'm pre-approved, and then they lose their job and they think that they can just continue on because they're pre-approved.
Yeah, I
Nothing is
had that
final,
happen.
yeah,
I had that
until
happen where a guy was on a project type job and everything was going well. And right before it was time to close, his project ended. That project ended. And so he, of course, when they called to verify employment, it was like, well, he doesn't work here anymore. And that was very sad because unfortunately, it was, he would have like so many weeks or months off between projects. And unfortunately, it ended right when he was in the process. And this was years ago, so I probably didn't even have, the knowledge, expertise, or whatever to say,
Mm-hmm.
hey, dude, if your project's going to end and you're closing, I just didn't
get another job real quick.
Yeah. And is that possible? You can get another job and still move forward?
You can. So
Okay.
we will, most banks, I know we will, if you have a job offer, a legitimate job offer, we're going to verify it. When you start, how much you're going to be making, your full-time permanent, because that's another stipulation. Yeah, and we'll take that job offer letter and the wages that are that you were offered, and we will use that to qualify you. Now, the one stipulation is that you have to produce a pay stub within 30 days after closing.
Okay.
So they're gonna kind of want to backtrack to make sure that you really did start the job. But we will close someone, and I've had that happen where people have lost their job and had to go out and find another one right away. And in some situations, it may not have to be, depending on what your debt situation is and how much the house is. It doesn't have to be a job that's like, making a whole lot of money. It could be, working at McDonald's full time. I mean,
what they pay you now at McDonald's.
That might work.
$15 an hour.
I know. My 15-year-old daughter started making $15 an hour her first job at McDonald's.
Yeah. It's crazy. Burger King, KFC, all those places are paying $15 an hour. Now I want to make sure I'm mindful of your time. We got about 9 minutes because I know you have another meeting. And so just real quick, what type of loan programs are there out there for people when they want to buy a house? Could you just go through the type of loan programs like conventional?
Sure.
So just real quick so that people, and if there's help out there for people.
Mm-hmm. So there's typically like 3 different categories of loan products, and each category has different products underneath it. So like one of the main categories for a government loan, what we call a government loan, is like an FHA loan, a VA loan, or a USDA loan. So we classify those as government loans because those are typically backed by HUD. So HUD is going to make all the rules and guidelines for those. The bank has to follow them. So and banks can add additional qualifications on top of what HUD might require, just based on what their, level, risk appetite is for each individual or credit score requirement or whatever. So FHA loans are used a lot for first-time home buyers. You can buy a 1 to 4 family with only 3.5% down. VA loans are for veterans where there's no money down. USDA loans are for certain geographical areas. There's no money down for those. So that's one portion. So of money that you'll need, your down payment. You have conventional based loans. So under conventional loans, there's different types of products. If you're a first time home buyer, building a house, doing renovation, most conventional loans are going to start at 5% down. But if you're a first time home buyer, you could do as little as 3% down. Some conventional loans require 10% down, depending on what you're doing. Like if you're buying a second home or a vacation home, you're going to have to put 10% down instead of just 5%. And there's lots of different variations of the products that fall underneath the conventional loan. And then the third type of product is what's called like portfolio. So a portfolio loan is a loan that's actually held by the bank. So with an FHA loan, HUD makes all the rules and the underwriting guidelines. With a conventional loan, either Fannie Mae or Freddie Mac makes all the rules and the guidelines, and that's what the bank has to follow. For a portfolio loan, the individual bank is going to make their own rules. So it's kind of like their own in-house product. So they can do whatever they want, they want to do with the product or how they want to make up the product. So banks will have portfolio loans like classified for like jumbo loans. And those are loans where you're borrowing more than over $500,000 on a single family. Wow. So that's usually a portfolio loan. If you're doing a construction loan, like if you're doing a custom new build, and you need a draw construction loan, those are usually portfolio loans. Some banks have special loans for first-time home buyers that are like in-house loans. So they're
Mhm.
not going to follow the rules of FHA or traditional conventional rules. Like I said, they make up their own requirements for that. So those are kind of like the three different classifications, how I explain it to people. There is another classification, but we don't use that as much anymore, and it's called non-conforming loans. So those are loans that, you know, back in the day where we used to call them C, B, and D paper loans. So those are people who didn't qualify for a traditional loan for whatever reason. They got bad terms, bad rates, but at least they were able to purchase a house. So you don't see very many of those lately, but that's like another classification too.
Okay. So actually, let's see, we got about 5 minutes before you gotta jet out of here. I don't have any comments or questions, but when we're done, I will send you this video so that you can share it on your social media. But right now, I don't have any more questions. And like I say, I want to be mindful of your time, that you do have another meeting. So right now, what I'll do, I went in and used a different flyer to put up your information. Let's see here. You had sent me one. Let's see here. So this is.
And I'll have to come back. I'm sorry, I had to cut this
Oh, it's
short.
okay.
Then I had the technical. I have my personal computer on because I don't, for some reason, it doesn't work on my other one. But I'll be glad to come back and go through like closing costs and get a little more detail with different things. Yeah,
because it's such a big part of the transaction. You know, the money is the main part. I like
main thing.
And so Leslie Curry is the person that's the guest today. She's a loan officer. She's been doing it for 23 years. Here's a flyer with her information. And so I'm trying not to show us, but a flyer with her information. This is what I want to do. Well, maybe not. I guess it's not working. A flyer with her information that shows how to get in contact with her. You can go to let's see. I think you go to Citizens Bank.
You can go. Yep, you can go on my website link, and if you're interested in a pre-qualification, which, like I said, is the first step, you can enter in your information, get a pre-qual really quick, and then we can go to the next stage, which would be pre-approval from there.
Right, and her link is www.citizenlo.curry. So www.citizenlo.com/curry is her last name. And so if you would like to get in touch with Leslie regarding mortgages, and okay, Leslie, I saw you on the Sylvia Sellz Home Show. What do I need to do to get myself ready to buy a house? I want to buy a house. I've been wanting to buy a house for years. And so I saw you on that show, and now I want to know, how do I do that? How can you help me, Leslie, with the mortgage process to buy a house? And so reach out to her. Her information is also scrolling down at the bottom. It's leslie.y.curry@citizenbank.com, and then her number is 585-766-9411. But I'm so grateful she came back on. Last time we went live, and I forgot to hit the button, y'all, but she came back. And I do want to have her back for her to be able to go deeper into some of the parts of getting a loan. And so, Leslie, thank you again for coming. I do want to also do a first-time buyer's home workshop. You guys on an attorney and home inspectors, and bring you guys on and do something like this with a first-time home buyer's workshop, in person or online. So, but I look forward to seeing you next week. I'm planning on being there next week.
All right.
And thank you for the invite, but thank you for coming on to Sylvia Sellz Homes Q&A community show. Again, this is Leslie Curry. She's a loan officer, and she is an expert in her field. So thank you for joining. And
all right, thank you,
next time, everybody, live well, take care, and God bless. Bye-bye.